Namaste. Welcome to Yin for Hips with Jay and Francis and Lucy the dog. This is a 60-minute class, and if you have some yoga blocks or a pillow, let's grab those and bring them to the mat. The first posture we'll take in this class is frog pose. Now, frog pose is kind of like child's pose, but the feet are apart, as you can see, tops of the feet to the floor, and knees wider than a child's pose. And we'll bring the hips down and try to bring them between the feet. Now there'll be varying degrees of width of the knees and depth of the hips depending on your hip flexibility. So you can see we're using bolsters to support the upper body. Francis's hips are quite high here, and she's using the bolster to support herself. And we hold these postures for 5 minutes. The other option is to put a block beneath your hips just so it's not so intense. Because after a few minutes it's going to feel intense. Now I want you to think about just focusing on your breath. Inhale very deeply. And exhale as slowly as you can. Deep inhale and feel where that air goes. And exhale, let all that air out of your body. Inhale. And exhale. Commit to yourself for this class that you're not going to move in these postures. As much as possible, you're going to stay still. That's why it's so important we find the right depth and intensity of the posture when we first begin, and it takes sometimes a little bit longer to get set up. Deep inhale. Deep exhale. Allow the thoughts that may be racing through your mind to just begin to be more quiet. You'll likely still have the thoughts, but just dismiss them. They'll be there when we're done. Now that we're halfway through, we can turn the head to the opposite direction because sometimes the neck gets a little stiff being in that one direction for 5 full minutes. Deep inhale, deep exhales. As the 5 minutes draws to a close, we'll pull our bodies forward and pull the knees together. And we're actually going to transition to the next posture through a down dog. And this down dog, this transition gives us a second to just kind of reorientate ourselves and to let that achiness, the echoes of the posture, leave the body. And understand that likely we all go through that. It's nothing to be worried about. Now, because this is a class for hips specifically, we're going to take some deep hip postures. So for the next posture, we come to a seat and we're going to do something that we call fire log. So you'll see definitely two different levels of flexibility between Frances and I. So Frances can sit in fire log with her knees completely flat. The ankles are across the opposite knee. And if you're really high up like my right leg is, we put a block there. Now that block just decreases the intensity of the stretch. Like I said before, we don't want to jump into the most intense posture or version of the posture. So here's a modification. If your hips are really tight, utilize those blocks or pillows to help support yourself. Now sit up tall and return to that breath. Deep, soft, slow inhales and deep, soft, slow exhales. Your breath will be your anchor for these classes. And inside, you might feel a great intensity with some of these stretches. And allow that to happen as long as there's no pain. And focus on that intensity and breathe to and through that. We hold these postures for so long to allow the body, the tendons and the ligaments to stretch and to get more blood in them. They have such a difficult time staying healthy and lubricated with blood, so these classes are very, very important. Now, fire log pose is great for both hips, but we're going to focus on that left leg, that left hip, a little longer now. So that was about 5 minutes there with that in fire log. So I'm going to remove the blocks, and we're going to swing that right leg around and come directly into pigeon. Lots of ways to get to pigeon from there. So that right leg comes directly out from the hip. If the hip is really high off the floor, we place a block there. And that helps to decrease the intensity to begin. Now, if you're fine with that intensity and you can keep that nice natural rhythm of your breath, then you can remove the block and use your breath to really take this to a different level. Now you can stay on your elbows or you can walk your hands forward like Frances. These are your classes, so you choose the intensity level. But whichever one you choose, commit to holding that there. Deep inhales and deep exhales. So about halfway through here, I feel in my body I can go a little lower, so I'm going to support myself with a bolster and come down just a little bit lower and just breathe to and through that tension. And knowing I only have to hold this posture for another couple of minutes, I just focus on the breath and releasing any area of my body that may have developed some tension to protect myself from stretching deep into that hip. So now we come out of pigeon, and instead of taking any transitionary postures, we're going to move right into fire log with the right leg beneath the left leg now. So I cross it in front of me, push that shin forward, Stack my left ankle over my right knee. And make sure that I'm comfortable. There's no sharp pain in my knees. You may notice a difference in the flexibility in each of your hips. You may not want to block. You may need a block. That gap there can be filled with a block if need be. Just remember it's your class and you set the intensity level. And the hips typically hold a lot of tension and a lot of emotion. So focusing on that breath will really help to stretch those hips. Remember the commitment you made to hold this position without moving or adjusting, and just letting yourself be. And understanding that everybody has different flexibility levels, and areas of strength and areas that need work. And this is not a judgment on yourself. This is just how things are. Deep, soft, slow inhales and equally deep and soft, slow exhales. Now you can try and do this all the breathing through your nose, or inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. As you can see, I removed the block, and this side's a little looser than the other side, but the intensity level is still there. Now that's our time with Fire Log. So a wonderful, beautiful transition is to just pick that top leg up if you can and just swing it right around. Maybe a little more gracefully than me, or maybe not. It's all good. Position that knee nice and high up. And then the right ankle wants to push up. The foot wants to push up, and just do your best. Don't worry about it being parallel with the top of the mat. And then find a way to support yourself as you ease into this. So I'm leaning on my elbows, but eventually I would like to get down a little lower, but I know that I'll be holding this for a while. So I want to give myself just a second to make sure that the body's feeling like it can release here and it's not going to just tense up. Now we begin to transition out of pigeon on this side, and we're going to be able to take a bit of a different posture here and take a second to just kind of move the legs and the hips, because we've been in these postures. You can see Lucy stretching there. We've been in these postures a long time. We're not done yet. This is about hips. Hips are not just the outsides. Hip flexors are included in there, and glutes and side body. I like to stretch all those things when I do this. So the next posture we're going to take is what we call a low lunge. It's going to be a little different in this intense hip class. So you'll notice that I come into a low lunge with that left leg in front, and the knee is stacked above the ankle. Now my back leg is extended behind me, and I've got that leg back a little further so I can apply more stretch to the front of my body. The blocks on either side of my foot just support me a little more. I can reach the ground, but I'm choosing to take a slightly less intense low lunge here because I know that I'm going to be holding it for a while, and I just want to ease into it so that I don't lose my breath. I do love intense yin classes, but because we're holding this in a 3-stage low lunge in this situation, I want to just take it nice and easy. Knee stacked over ankle. Good. Now play with this a little bit and see if you can turn your tailbone down towards the floor. And just breathe. I know that you're doing good for your body, for your hips. You need this. We all do. If you sit a lot, or you're a biker or a hiker, this will really help you out. So now we go to stage 2. I back off just a little bit there, just because I know it's going to be intense. I bring the blocks to the inside of my left foot. And the idea here is that now that I've stretched initially in that first version, I can get a little deeper here. So the blocks are there to support. You can use a pillow, a bolster. And as I go, I know that I can come a little bit lower. So I'm going to turn those blocks and maybe bring my elbows down, or maybe stack the blocks to make it a little bit higher but still come a little bit lower. Good, so I move my foot out because I'm a big person. My body has to go somewhere, and I want to stay balanced in that front foot. So that front foot, the big toe knuckles anchored to the floor, the pinky toe side, the heel. And I'm still trying to just breathe deeply in and deeply out, even though the intensity level may be higher. So because my knee keeps pushing out to the side, because my body wants to go lower, and I don't necessarily want to move my foot out, I wrap my arm around the leg and then grasp my opposite wrist to hold that leg into center. What you can't see is I'm trying to pull that knee into center. So this is an active posture. So inside there, I'm squeezing that knee into my center line whilst holding it with my arm wrapped around there. Alrighty, our time's almost up. We're not holding these for a full 5 minutes each. That would just be a little too intense, I think, for anybody. From that low lunge, we move into something we call lizard. So as you can see, what I'm going to do is turn my front toes out and roll to the edge of my foot. So I'm going to take a second here before I start timing to just make sure that the body feels good here. So this is a little more intense, and now we've held this for a while, so it's going to be even more intense, and it's going to feel really good when we come out. Now here I'm bendy enough to bring the elbows to the floor, just as Frances has done right away, because we know she's pretty bendy. And I'm just going to let that knee open up now. Where I was trying to hold it in before, I allow it to open up and come as low as I can. Sometimes to protect ourselves, we hold our breath because the intensity is too much. And that's why I say so often to breathe. We forget that we need to breathe, and we get caught up in those thoughts, the day, the week, the month, or even a year of just thoughts that just build up. And I want you to focus on your body in your class now. Now around this time, we've held this for a while, and I want you to know that it's okay if it's feeling intense. We're coming out of it now. And definitely take a bit of a transition and let the legs move a little bit, because we're going to do that same thing on the other side. So we don't need to rush into the posture. I need to make sure that I've not held my breath, that the body's feeling good. So when we do yoga, we want to focus on what we're doing and how our body feels. I don't want to focus on my work day or the groceries I need to get or did I walk the dog. I just need this time to be good to myself, to help my body, to prevent injuries as we get older and even younger. So Frances is already in that posture. Now look at the blocks Frances has there. So we have the same blocks, but each block has 3 different heights. So I'm at the tallest height there. Frances is at the middle height, and then of course we can put them flat. So these are all options for you to explore, and that's why yoga blocks are so important. I could put my hands on the ground, but I know that it will be incredibly intense, and I know that I'll have to hold this for a while. So I want to just pace myself. So notice how far forward my hips are coming without my knee going over my toes. The back leg walks back. And now we breathe here. And as much as possible, release the tension from maybe my hands that are supporting, or maybe you've clenched your jaw because it's so intense. Recognize this, don't judge yourself, and release that tension by utilizing your breath. Big inhales and big exhales. We're nearing the end of this stage. Now we move to the second stage. So low lunge is often called Anjani Asana in yoga. That's the Sanskrit word. I don't often use the Sanskrit. I like the traditional westernized terms, I suppose. Because the important thing is not about the Sanskrit. It's the postures and what we're doing to the body. And here we're helping the body. We're getting some stretch into the psoas muscles, which is a muscle that attaches to the spine and goes down the leg. So many things are happening here. Good. So I'm going to lower to the next lower level and stack them. Wrap my arm around to make sure that leg stays in the center, because as you can see, I'm a big person. So my body wants to go lower. My hips are ready, but I just have to find a way to work with the body that I have. And now we breathe. So here we get set up for stage 3, which is lizard pose. So remember, the toes turn out. We roll to the outside edge of the foot, and we allow the body to come down. Maybe you stay there and hold yourself up. Again, we're just demonstrating what we can do or what can be done. Just understand that if you're moving, you've found the courage to just start this and to do this and to hold these postures, you're doing fantastic. So it was intense. I came out for 1 second because I knew that I was going to go a little deeper. Deep inhales and deep exhales. Now we come out of that lizard pose, and again, at this stage, we're able to take a bit of a transition. I need to move my hip sockets a little bit and just let that sort of achiness that comes from those deep, intense postures to just dissipate. Lucy's a very good yin dog. She does yin all day long. So we're going to take what's called a supported bridge pose. So we often do bridge poses to work our glutes and to stretch the front body. So here's the way we do it in a yin class that is relaxing and potentially intense. So see, I'm putting the blocks together, and I can put a bolster on top to make it even more intense. Francis has put the blocks at the highest level. So there's a couple of options on what to do here. So the feet are hips distance apart. Adjust the blocks so it's just above the tailbone. You'll find that spot on your back where it feels good. So you can keep the legs bent, or you can straighten the legs. Straightening the legs will make it more intense. There's no doubt about it. But now I'm stretching that whole front body. I was so crouched over doing all those other postures. Now I just want to take big breaths and let my ribs expand and let my belly button lift and fall as I breathe, and just feel that security of the mat beneath my body. And now to come out of this posture, I'll walk my feet back, and I'm going to move slowly because that supported bridge turns into a bit of a back bend, and your lower back may feel it here. So slowly I remove all the pieces out of the way. And I'm going to bring my knees into my body, and I like doing that to stretch my lower back in the opposite way. But I'm moving slowly because that supported bridge was quite intense. So I move slowly, bring my forehead up to my knees and round my back nice and deep. So we're going to come into what we call a Bakasana, or it's a little bit wider. So the version that I'm showing you here is for the lower back and some inner thigh, or the adductors of your inner legs. So with the legs forward, I'm able to stretch my lower back, and it's slightly less intense on the legs. So here Frances puts a block there because she can't go all the way down, and we want to make it a little less intense. So my body's in the way there, so even though I'm pretty flexible, I want a little support from my head. And Lucy's just watching us, wondering what's going on. And back to her yin posture, which is side dog sleeping. For more adductor stretch, you bring the heels in closer to the body. But this is good. We've already had quite an intense class, so this is a nice way to relax into this. Deep inhales and deep exhales, scanning your body for those tight areas. So maybe you're pressing into your elbows too hard, or you're gripping your feet really hard. Relax those areas and let the body focus on the areas that we're trying to stretch, which is the back and the inner legs. And so let's roll to the back and just take a moment here. These are transition times. No hurry to move into the next posture. We're going to take a twist. And I love these twists and holding these twists. So as you can see, our knees are at 90 and we just tip over to one side. So we went left, you can go right. There's no right or wrong. We're going to do both sides. So here, if I'm really tight, I put a bolster between my legs and then I reach that arm back. So you can see Frances, she's got her shoulder blade on the floor on the right side, looking over her arm. Her knees are at about 90 degrees and the knees are stacked. And for me, I've chosen to put a bolster between my legs because when we hold this for a while, that outer hip can get pretty stretched, and if my knees are hovering, it's really intense. So I put a bolster there, but you can put a block. You can put a block under both knees on the floor or between the knees. The idea here is to bring the shoulder blade to the floor, the knees to the floor. Now, if that arm is off the floor, put a block beneath it. And this just helps support us and be less intense. Now we think of inhaling here, and those top ribs, I always picture them inflating, that lung inflating and spreading all those muscles in between the ribs. And then I exhale and I feel like I can twist deeper. Whether I do or not, it's not really the point. I just want to feel that I can do that. Deep inhales and deep exhales. Good, now we're going to switch sides and set up, taking our time to set up as always. And I love doing opposite sides, and I can really tune into what feels different in each side, just to get to know my body better, to notice areas that I may not have noticed before while trying to match the sides. So here I'm trying to grab that block with great difficulty. And I got it. Excellent work, Jay. And now this is how I demo when if my shoulder doesn't touch the floor, I want to try and find a comfortable spot for that block. Now, this may be intense on the elbow, so I'll push it into the shoulder more, or maybe I'll bring it over to my hand more. There's no right or wrong. It's your comfort and the intensity that you want for the class. Look over the opposite shoulder where the knees are and breathe. Remember at the beginning I said, your breath is your anchor. And I meant it. Deep inhales, letting the ribs lift and expand, and exhale, Let those ribs contract. And now for our final posture, it's Shavasana. The feet go to the corners of the mat. The palms turn up beside the hips, either far from the hips or close to the hips, or even put your hands on your belly and just feel yourself breathing. And from the top of your head, we just slowly scan the body, going all the way down. And just feeling every little bit of the body pressing into the floor. Not an active press, just as if you weighed 1,000,000 pounds. Soft, slow inhales here, letting the belly lift. And exhale, let the belly fall. Pull that belly button in towards the spine. And just bring attention to how your body feels now that you've done that class. just gently reawaken the body and start to move very organically and how the body feels like it needs to move. And after a couple minutes of that, we just roll to the right side, which we call fetal posture, and roll right up to a seat. And you can stay in Shavasana as long as you like. Francis and I will finish the class in a seated cross-legged pose. Feeling super stretched, knowing we did the best we could and helped the body. Namaste, everybody, and thanks for joining me. Please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing our channel. It would really help us out. And we will see you next time, my friends.